No society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which the far greater part of the members are poor and miserable. Mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. The first thing you have to know is yourself. A man who knows himself can step outside himself and watch his own reactions like an observer. A nation is not made wealthy by the childish accumulation of shiny metals, but it enriched by the economic prosperity of its people. A criminal is a person with predatory instincts who has not sufficient capital to form a corporation. Most government is by the rich for the rich. Government comprises a large part of the organized injustice in any society, ancient or modern. Civil government, insofar as it is instituted for the security of property, is in reality instituted for the defense of the rich against the poor, and for the defense of those who have property against those who have none. Individual ambition serves the common good. By pursuing his own interest, the individual frequently promotes that of the society more effectually than when he really intends to promote it. I have never known much good done by those who affected to trade for the public good. Man is an animal that makes bargains. No other animal does this. No dog exchanges bones with another. The disposition to admire, and almost to worship, the rich and the powerful, and to despise, or, at least, to neglect persons of poor and mean condition is the great and most universal cause of the corruption of our moral sentiments. There is no art which government sooner learns of another than that of draining money from the pockets of the people. Nothing is more graceful than habitual cheerfulness. The real price of everything, what everything really costs to the man who wants to acquire it, is the toil and trouble of acquiring it. All money is a matter of belief. Wherever there is great property, there is great inequality. Science is the great antidote to the poison of enthusiasm and superstition. The interest of is always in some respects different from, and even opposite to, that of the public. The proposal of any new law or regulation of commerce which comes from this order ought never to be adopted, till after having been long and carefully examined, with the most suspicious attention. It comes from an order of men, who have generally an interest to deceive and even oppress the public. Happiness never lays its finger on its pulse. Goods can serve many other purposes besides purchasing money, but money can serve no other purpose besides purchasing goods. What can be added to the happiness of the man who is in health, who is out of debt, and has a clear conscience? Every individual is continually exerting himself to find out the most advantageous employment for whatever capital he can command. It is his own advantage, indeed, and not that of the society which he has in view. But the study of his own advantage naturally, or rather necessarily, leads him to prefer that employment which is most advantageous to society. He intends only his own gain, and he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was not part of his intention. Wherever there is great property there is great inequality. For one very rich man there must be at least 500 poor, and the affluence of the few supposes the indigence of the many. The affluence of the rich excites the indignation of the poor, who are often both driven by want, and prompted by envy, to invade his possessions. To feel much for others and little for ourselves, that to restrain our selfish, and to indulge our benevolent affections, constitutes the perfection of human nature. The great secret of education is to direct vanity to proper objects. On the road from the city of skepticism, I had to pass through the valley of ambiguity. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker, that we expect our dinner, but from regard to their own interest. We address ourselves, not to their humanity but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities but of their advantages. Nobody but a beggar chooses to depend chiefly upon the benevolence of his fellow citizens. The learned ignore the evidence of their senses to preserve the coherence of the ideas of their imagination. Labor was the first price, the original purchase, money that was paid for all things. It was not by gold or by silver, but by labor, that all wealth of the world was originally purchased. The man of system, on the contrary, is apt to be very wise in his own conceit, and is often so enamored with the supposed beauty of his own ideal plan of government, that he cannot suffer the smallest deviation from any part of it. He seems to imagine that he can arrange the different members of a great society with as much ease as the hand arranges the different pieces upon a chessboard. He does not consider that, in the great chessboard of human society, every single piece has a principle of motion of its own, altogether different from that which the legislature might choose to impress upon it. The problem with fiat money is that it rewards the minority that can handle money, but fools the generation that has worked and saved money. Defense is superior to opulence. But avarice and ambition in the rich, in the poor the hatred of labor and the love of present ease and enjoyment, are the passions which prompt to invade property, passions much more steady in their operation, and much more universal in their influence. Wherever there is great property there is great inequality. For one very rich man there must be at least 500 poor, and the affluence of the few supposes the indigence of the many. In raising the price of commodities, the rise of wages operates in the same manner as simple interest does in the accumulation of debt. Our merchants and master manufacturers complain much of the bad effects of high wages in raising the price, and thereby lessening the sale of their goods, both at home and abroad. They say nothing concerning the bad effects of high profits. They are silent with regard to the pernicious effects of their own gains. They complain only of those of other people. Every man is rich or poor according to the degree in which he can afford to enjoy the necessaries, conveniences, and amusements of human life. Consumption is the sole end and purpose of all production. People of the same trade seldom meet together, even for merriment and diversion, but the conversation ends in a conspiracy against the public, or in some contrivance to raise prices.